What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Uproar, and today we are talking about one of the most hype aspects of One Piece, bounties, and specifically Luffy's growing bounty, and what it will be after defeating Kaido. So make sure to stay tuned for this one. If you do enjoy these One Piece videos and want to keep them coming, you know what to do. Channel Pirate King Within and smash that like button. Be a smashing Pirate King rather than a passing Orochi. If you haven't, join the Nakama by making this the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. Welcome aboard, and now without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Before we get to Luffy's new bounty, it will help if we explore his past bounties and how they evolved over the course of the story. Luffy's first bounty was 30 million berries. During chapter 96, called The Meanest Man in the East, Commander Brand New at Navy headquarters explains how Luffy beat Buggy, who was worth 15 million, Don Krieg, who was worth 17 million, and Arlong, who was worth 20 million. The average reward in the East Blue is 3 million berries, but since each of these pirates was worth over 10 million berries, they're giving Luffy a starting bounty of 30 million. They say it's unprecedented, but they believe it is necessary to nip this evil in the bud before it spreads. It's still hilarious to me how bringing down corrupt pirates makes him evil, but that's a discussion for another video. Luffy's bounty started off 50% higher than that of his most recent defeated opponent, Arlong. Yes, his bounty took Buggy and Don Krieg into account as well, but it's still interesting to note how high his bounty goes up compared to that of the people he beat. Luffy's next bounty is dropped during chapter 213 after he defeats one of the 7 warlords of the sea, namely Crocodile. This is a huge deal because the warlord system was one of the balancing powers of the world. Like the Yonko, and Luffy just beat one. Before he became a warlord, Crocodile had a bounty of 81 million. The former bounty suggests it might be even higher by now if he didn't become a warlord, but that's just speculation, so we'll work with the figure that we have. Luffy's own bounty, like last time, jumps well past his defeated opponent's bounty and lands at a very impressive 100 million berries. This time, his bounty is about 25% higher than that of his most recent defeated opponent. Things get less straightforward with the next bounty because Luffy fights Rob Lucci before he gets it, rather than a pirate with a measurable bounty. After defeating the Marine's own man, CP9's strongest member in history, Luffy's new bounty is revealed during chapter 435. It's 300 million berries. This raises another interesting aspect about bounties. The world government issues them based on their perceived threat level of a given pirate, so being a threat to the world government and their established order rather than just a strong dude who never interferes with the Marines will mean that you get a much higher bounty in theory. So since Luffy beat one of the Marines' strong fighters rather than just a pirate, it's no surprise his bounty shot up so much here. This is another aspect to keep in mind when discussing what his newest bounty will be. Next, let's fast forward to chapter 601, where Luffy's 4th bounty is revealed to be 400 million. This is post time skip and Marineford, where Luffy helped break prisoners out of Impel Down. People found out he's the world's worst criminals, aka Monkey D. Dragon's son. He escaped the war with the help of Whitebeard and Shanks, and so on. You might ask why his bounty didn't go up more, since this is the smallest jump so far percentage-wise. Well, I'm guessing it's because he wasn't that powerful at Marineford. He failed to rescue his brother, he broke down, and he had to be saved. If he succeeded at Marineford, you can bet his bounty would have gone up way more. This bounty is also immediately outdated, at least power-wise, because it doesn't account for how much more dangerous he became strength-wise after his 2 years of training. After defeating Doflamingo at Dressrosa, Luffy's bounty goes up to 500 million berries, which to me is a much more important milestone than 400 million, despite it not being the biggest increase. Luffy had already beaten a warlord before, and Warlord Doflamingo's former bounty was 340 million, so less than Luffy's was when he beat him. Despite how epic it was seeing Luffy beat such a strong Awakened Fruit user, the above mentioned details help explain why his bounty didn't blow up significantly after this victory. That leads us to Luffy's current bounty, which jumped from 500 million all the way to 1.5 billion, aka it increased by 3 times or 200%. This was after his defeat of Big Mom's strongest commander, Charlotte Katakuri, whose bounty was 1.057 billion. So Luffy's bounty increased to be about 50% higher than Katakuri's. It wasn't just that fight that raised his bounty though, since he was viewed as the ringleader of an attempt to assassinate Yonko Big Mom as well and lived to tell the tale. Furthermore, Sanji's bounty went up to 330 million and former warlord Jinbei joined his crew as well. And since Jinbei has an amazing bounty of 438 million, it all reflects well on Luffy, leading him to be viewed as a bigger threat. The grand fleet of over 5,000 pirates, aka the 7 powerful pirate crews under his sway, were also mentioned, along with the fact that he wasn't just Ace's brother, but Sabo's as well. Which is significant because Sabo is the number 2 of the revolutionaries, arguably the most dangerous organization to the world government. And I mean, the list goes on, but the point is, he not only confronted a Yonko crew, but came out the better of the two, which along with all of his other feats that came before, justified the 1.5 billion berry bounty, and even earned him the title of the 5th Emperor of the Sea. That's when he got his current bounty, but so much has changed since then, in a big way. Remember, even with this bounty of 1.5 billion and with the title of the 5th Emperor, Luffy got wrecked by Yonko Kaido in their first one-on-one. However, since that loss, his mastery of Haki and his mastery of his own Devil Fruit has gone up to an insane degree and in an insanely short period of time. I mean, this dude is 19 and he's already given Kaido, the so-called strongest creature in the world and the living Yonko with the highest bounty, an insanely good fight. Now I think it's clear that Luffy's victory will be confirmed eventually, but I just want to say that he's already accomplished insane things. People say bet on Kaido in a one-on-one, whoever the opponent is, and yet our 19-year-old protagonist is giving him a run for his money. But for the sake of coming up with his next bounty, we need to look to post-Wano and post his defeat of Kaido, so let's see what that could mean for Luffy's next bounty. We've seen that a bounty incorporates a lot of factors, including an individual's solo strength, their crew's strength, their threat level to the world government, and so on. Let's start by looking at Kaido's bounty, which is 4.6111 billion berries. If Luffy beats him, how high can we expect his to go? Don't worry, this isn't the only factor I'll take into account, but it is an important and fun one. When he beat Arlong, his bounty increased to be 50% higher than Arlong's. When he beat Crocodile, his bounty increased to be about 25% higher than Crocodile's own bounty. When he beat Katakuri, it increased to be about 50% higher than Katakuri's bounty. So when taking Kaido's roughly 4.6 billion bounty into account, we get a range from 5.75 billion, which is 25% higher than Kaido's, to 6.9 billion, which is 50% higher than Kaido's. Now at this point you might be thinking, this is too high bro. Goldie Roger, the Pirate King, was 5.5648 billion berries. There's no way Luffy's bounty will surpass that so soon, you might be thinking. And yet, on the lower end of the range I gave, Luffy is already ahead of Roger, the Pirate King, with a bounty of 5.75 billion. And honestly, I know this might sound crazy at first, but there is little doubt in my mind that Luffy will surpass the Pirate King's own bounty, and it's not just because of inflation. I strongly believe he'll become the man with the highest bounty ever, dead or alive. We saw how that could potentially be justified if we just take his historical bounty data and how it went up in relation to that of his conquered opponents in the past. But there are so many other reasons that Luffy will become the most wanted man ever after Wano. Another reason is his crew. Everybody is gonna get spikes in bounty after this, especially Zoro. Zoro blocked a combined Yonko attack, gave Kaido a lasting scar, launched attacks so dangerous that Kaido and Big Mom felt the need to dodge, and then went on to beat King, Kaido's strongest man, who has a 1.39 billion bounty. Zoro's own bounty, even though he's not the captain, should easily surpass Luffy's current bounty of 1.5 billion post-Wano. In other words, Zoro alone will have a higher bounty than the so-called 5th Emperor has right now, meaning it'll be like Luffy's crew has at least 2 Emperors on it if Luffy doesn't get his own special title afterwards. But in my view, the most important aspect to look at when determining Luffy's post-Wano bounty is the threat he poses to the world government. Luffy right now is by far the biggest threat to the world government we've seen, and that's counting the Pirate King. Even before he awakened his fruit, the government wanted to kill him at all costs, fearing the potential of his awakening. That's why they were willing to lose one of their best CP0 agents and even anger the strongest creature in the world to do it. However, they failed to stop him from awakening. Despite their best efforts, Luffy awakened, and we all found out that he didn't have the Gum Gum fruit, but rather he had the mythical zone Sun God Nika fruit. The most ridiculous power in the world, to quote the world government. Just the legend of Nika alone was enough to make a jail guard who was talking about the sun god disappear. Who's Who remembers that Nika was a figure that slaves would pray to in the long distant past, a legendary warrior they believed would one day free them. They thought he'd bring smiles to their faces and deliver them from suffering. Who's Who, as different from Luffy and his friends as he is, even admitted to clinging to the legend of Nika because prison felt so endless. Such a unifying figure for slaves and the oppressed is the world government's worst nightmare, and even the story was enough to make Who's Who's jailer disappear and to make him fear for his own life. He feared that they'd make him disappear so much that he risked it all to escape, and that's how he ended up joining Kaido's crew. Since even knowing about the legend is deadly, then having a living and breathing sun god Nika in Luffy, giving hope, strength, and even assistance to the downtrodden is probably the biggest threat that the world government has ever encountered. With his cartoonish fruit, Luffy can straight up do the impossible, or in other words, make miracles happen, which is sure to further inspire the people that the world government rules over to rise up. Roger couldn't be such a threat because he didn't have this fruit. He also knew that he was too early, so at some point he probably decided to leave the world government to do what they were doing, for his lifetime at least, trusting that another would take care of it. In fact, Goldie Roger teamed up with Monkey D. Garp and the Marines to help protect nobles from Rox D. Zebek at God Valley, or at least that's the story we got. So not only was Roger not as much of a threat to the world government, we know he even teamed up with them on at least one occasion. Luffy, we know, doesn't care about people's status. He's already punched a celestial dragon in the face. He cannot be controlled and will do the right thing, and the right thing for him is, in almost every case, being a warrior of liberation and liberating people wherever he goes, which again is the worst thing for an organization that wants to rule over and control people. Finally, beyond his insane power, the insane power of his crew and alliances, which by the way now include Marco the Phoenix, which I didn't even mention, and his sun god Nika status, Luffy also has connections with Shanks, the man who stopped the Paramount War after stopping Kaido from going after Whitebeard as well, and probably more importantly, has connections to the revolutionaries. His father is Monkey D. Dragon, the world's worst criminal, and his brother is the second in command, Sabo. Although Dragon and Luffy haven't done a lot together so far, with this new sun god Nika, the warrior of liberation reveal, Luffy is the perfect symbol for the revolutionaries to support and rally behind. After this, Dragon should have every reason in the world to team up with and help Luffy, because Sun God Luffy is the one more than any other that can make his dream of liberating people from the world government and celestial dragons come true. Those are just his well-established connections, but beyond that, Mihawk noted that Luffy has the ability to make allies of those around him, and that's the most dangerous ability in this entire ocean. So the world government can assume that he'll keep gaining more and more dangerous allies, like a snowball rolling down an endless snowy hill, becoming exponentially bigger over time. So with all of these aspects in mind, in my view, a bounty range from 5.75 billion, which again is 25% higher than Kaido's, to 6.9 billion, which is 50% higher than Kaido's, is more reasonable, and in fact, I'd say it's on the lower end of what his new bounty could potentially be. If we take into account all of the facts we've covered in this video, I would honestly not be surprised if Luffy jumped to a ridiculous 10 billion berry bounty to match his ridiculous new power. But at the very least, I think he should have the highest bounty we've ever seen, because I've shown he's a much bigger threat to the world government than even Roger was. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, be a smashing pirate king rather than a passing Orochi, make this the video you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. Check out my big One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the Yonko, Warlords, Admirals, and much more. Link to that is in the description. Let me know what do you think will be Luffy's new post-wano bounty, and if someone gets it right after the reveal, I'll try to shout them out in a future chapter review or in another One Piece video. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.